everyone. Welcome to the Friday edition of This Day. It is March 28th. I'm Michael Taylor. Glad to be here. Hope you're ready for your weekend. Should have some fun stuff going on this weekend. The weather's going to agree with us. It's not, in terms of not being raining on us like we had the sprinkles on Wednesday. So should be a good one for us. Let's talk about what's on today's show, though. We got a good one right here indoors. You can stay nice and dry and warm and stay and watch us for a little while. We have Hoag Orthopedic Institute's Dr. Alan Breyer coming in. He's going to be talking to Bree about some important medical updates they want to give us. And then later in the program, Sports Corner with Cole Young. That's going to be a good one as always. We're in the midst of March Madness. Let's see where we go from here. All right, we got some important information talking about March Madness. We got some March Madness of our own going on. March 31st, we're going to have the Village Games are going to start. Torch is going to be lit. We're going to have games going on. Should be a fun time for everybody. There are 23 different kind of events going on in terms of archery, badminton, basketball, bicycling, more and more. You can read the list there. So get out there and enjoy the games. If you're a participant, good luck to you. If you're going to be viewing, make sure you go out there and support these athletes. It's a real fun time for everybody. It's going all the way through the month, all the way to the end of April 24th. And so it should be a fun time for everybody. Let's take a quick check of our weather, and for the athletes for next week, we'll look at their forecast as well. And we've got basically the same kind of thing, a variation of a degree or two, but really mid-60s, partly to mostly cloudy for today, to Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So that's our pattern for a little while in terms of our weather. I guess we'll take it here, early spring. We're going to warm up soon enough, so we'll enjoy the cooler temperatures for a while. Let's take a look at our sunrise and sunset. Got a beautiful picture here from Hope Bullock, who was up in Washington recently. This is a beautiful picture in Tacoma. Looks like the dome of, I think, the courthouse up there. Beautiful shot there, though. Sunrise this morning, 6:43. Sunset tonight is going to be 7:08. If you'd like to send us a picture like Hope did, we'd love to see it. Go ahead and email us, lagunawoodsvillagetv@gmail.com. Make sure you include your name, like Hope did, where you took the picture, like Hope did, and we will use it on our sunrise sunset segment. All right, no meetings to tell you about, so when we come back, it'll be Bree and Dr. Breyer from Hoag Orthopedic Institute. Stay with us.
Do you suffer from low back pain? Hoag Orthopedic Institute is the #1 provider of orthopedic and spine care in Orange County. Our Back to You program is a unique, non-operative, evidence-based approach to treating low back pain. Our spine strengthening program combines physical therapy with education on pain and nutrition. Let Hoag Orthopedic Institute's Back to You program get you back to doing what you love. For more information, visit hoiexperts.com/spine or call 855-999-4641 to find a doctor.
And welcome back to the show, everybody. Here in Laguna Woods Village, we love to play sports year-round. Doesn't matter what sport it is. We love it, we bring it, we play it. But that could potentially lead to a sports injury. Hopefully, Dr. Alan Breyer here with Hoag Orthopedic Institute can give us some special tips and pointers on how to prevent that, and if it happens, what we can do about it. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Nice to have you here. Give us a little bit of your background.
So I am an orthopedic surgeon. I've been in practice here in Orange County for 43 years. Originally from back east, as you can probably hear. Did all my training back east. Came out here, did my sports medicine training with Dr. Curlin and Dr. Joe back in the early 80s. Thinking I was going back to New York and going to be a sports medicine doctor in New York, and I was out here about a week, and I realized I was never going back to New York. And the rest is history. Been in the same practice for 43 years and enjoying every minute of it.
Well, how could you not? This is a beautiful place to live. So what types of sports injuries are you seeing?
So as an orthopedic surgeon, we're trained to take care of the whole musculoskeletal system. And sports medicine specifically trained physicians really kind of hone in more on the injuries that occur during sports play. But we take care of everything from hand and finger injuries to ankle injuries to elbow, shoulder injuries, knee is big. And the last 10 years of my practice, I've pretty much focused in on knee injuries because I've always been fascinated by the knee joint. So I've become kind of a knee guy. But early on, I mean, I did everything. I did Tommy John surgery of the elbow. I did ankle reconstructions. We did it all. And actually, as my patients got older, as I got older, I was doing more and more knee replacements from the people whose anterior cruciate ligaments I might have fixed 20 years before.
Is that right?
And then 20 years later, when the arthritis set in, they needed a knee replacement, I was doing those too. So I've covered the gamut, but the last 10 years or so has been mostly knees.
So are you seeing a lot of knee injuries with golf or pickleball?
Well, I'm fond of saying that pickleball has been very good to me. Pickleball injuries are epidemic, and it's for a couple of different reasons.
Tell us.
I read an interesting study a couple of months ago that said that pickleball injuries in the United States last year had a $400 million cost to the healthcare system. The problem with that study was it talks about people who hurt themselves playing pickleball, and the cost of their treatment was $400 million. It doesn't address the people who maybe got off the couch and went out and played pickleball and got a little active and did some stuff and didn't have that heart attack or that stroke or that other thing that you get from just sitting around doing nothing.
Right.
And I'd be willing to wager that the savings to the healthcare system from those people who didn't sustain a cardiac event or a stroke outweighs the $400 million that was spent treating their pickleball injuries. And I'd rather spend that $400 million any day to prevent people from sitting home and doing nothing and their exercise is pushing the button on the remote.
But not only that, it sounds like pickleball is taking the rap because the population of the sport exploded over the last 4 years.
Absolutely correct,
right?
and continues to explode, yes.
So they're not otherwise doing other things, such as golf or tennis or skiing or any other type of sport can cause injuries.
But pickleball was unique in that it appealed to people who didn't want to go out and take golf lessons, which takes a commitment, or take tennis lessons, which takes a commitment.
Sure.
It's an easier sport to just pick up the racket, pick up a ball, put on a pair of sneakers, and go out there and do it. There wasn't a big investment in money or time and training. It's very intuitive, and you can get decent at it very, very quickly because the court's smaller, it's easier to get to the ball, and it has the whole social aspect.
Right.
People are going out and playing doubles, and they have a glass of wine in between the games.
Well,
It's like
and
golf.
we wonder why there's injuries.
Exactly. Well, let's not go there. But it's the social aspect, especially in this community, that appeals to people so much. And I
I've
think
heard
that's
that
important.
it's a very addicting sport. So what can people do to prevent or avoid any injuries?
So the things that I like to tell people when they've just started or kind of getting into it are several things. Number one, preparation. You shouldn't go out to do anything without preparation. And in the case of this, it's spend 5 minutes stretching a little bit. Stretch your Achilles tendons, stretch your shoulders a little bit, turn and twist your back a little bit, just to warm up the muscles, loosen up the muscles. I mean, I tell the same thing to golfers. Don't go from your car directly to the first tee. Spend 15 minutes warming up a little bit. It's gonna get rid of a lot of those injuries. Number two, I think, is know who you are as an athlete. The thing about pickleball that's a little bit dangerous almost is that unlike tennis, where the court is rather large, most of us figure out pretty quickly, I can't get to that ball, I'm not even gonna try.
Right.
On the pickleball court, almost everything feels like it's within reach. You don't have to move that far to get to just about any ball because the court is so small.
Sure.
And a 65-year-old guy, God love him, can't get to the ball the way a 20-year-old does, and boom, he pops his Achilles tendon because he tries too hard to get to that ball. So know your limits. You're not out there on the professional pickleball tour, making a living doing it. You're doing it for fun. Just let the ball go and keep your Achilles tendon intact.
So if they don't, at what point do they call an orthopedic surgeon?
So my rule of thumb usually, with an obvious deformity or if there's, nerve or muscle injury where you can't move something or it doesn't have a blood supply to it, you need to seek medical help right away. But for that ankle sprain, that wrist sprain, or something like that, you wait 24 to 48 hours, you do some ice, you take a couple of Advil or Aleve if you're not on any other medications that contradict taking those pills. And if it's not better in 24 to 48 hours or the ankle sprain still doesn't let you weight bear on it after 24 or 48 hours, that's when you should seek medical help.
Okay, good to note. So last time you were here, you were talking about opening a new surgery center.
And we've opened our 5th surgery center at Hoag Orthopedic Institute. It's right down the road here in Aliso Viejo, state of the art. We've got 10 robotic sets of instrumentation for doing joint arthroplasty. We're getting people, actually that's a picture of the new entrance for Hoag Hospital in Irvine and Hoag Orthopedic Institute, where we're adding 3 new buildings on the front. That campus is actually going to be larger than the Newport Beach campus when that construction is finished by the end of next year. The surgery center is in Aliso Viejo. We're doing our joint replacements as outpatients. More than half the patients are going home the same day after a total hip or a total knee replacement.
That's incredible.
We've got spine surgeons doing outpatient surgery. It's really a state-of-the-art orthopedic facility.
So do you bounce around to each of the facilities, or do you have one that you go to?
First of all, I let my younger guys do a lot more of the bouncing than me. I'm getting a little too old to bounce. But and most of the guys work that way. They'll stay at 1 or 2 of the centers. We try not to have guys going to all 5 because you can't develop the amount of time that you need devoting to the patients if you're spending that much time on the freeway. So we tend to have our doctors broken out in groups where each physician will go to 1 or 2 of the centers, but not to all 5.
Mm-hmm. So when do you expect that newest one to be open?
Well, the surgery center is open in Aliso. It's been open for a year now. The construction down on Sand Canyon for Hoag, we're looking at completing probably towards the end of 26, and it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal facility. There'll be a new digestive center, a new women's center. Hoag Orthopedic Institute is going to be expanded. It's going to be a true state-of-the-art facility, which, only Hoag seems to be able to really pull together. It's a great place to work. They build us a lovely sandbox to work in.
Yes, that's beautiful. So in your expertise, are you using a lot of AI now for some of your surgeries?
AI is just about breaking into the surgical arena. I think the robotics combined with AI are giving us the ability on the really difficult cases to come up with a better solution and ensuring more perfect placement of our knee and hip replacements, because the key to longevity on a joint replacement is getting the alignment absolutely perfect. And certainly robotics and AI can help you do that. It's not needed in most of the cases. I see a bigger role for AI in terms of the instant knowledge. For instance, if I prescribe a patient a medication, it can instantly tell me, don't do this, it interacts with this other medication that this patient is on. And that's where the real goal of AI is. That and searching the literature to help you with a difficult diagnostic case where maybe it can really refer you to somebody who had the same problem 20 years ago and wrote about it. Mm-hmm. We can certainly learn from the past. And AI has the capability to just make all of that wealth of orthopedic knowledge available to us instantly, instead of spending hours in the library researching a project.
Right, yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you have cases or patients where you've had to go in 20 years later because of scar tissue buildup and had to remove that. Are surgeries coming along so that the scar tissue can be addressed before the onset, or is that...
That's a great question, and scar tissue is invariable when you violate the body in any way. So the best way to minimize the formation of that scar tissue is with a minimally invasive technique. Mm-hmm. And most of our surgical procedures, especially the advent of arthroscopic procedures, has indeed minimized that surgical insult. When I came into practice and we did an anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction, the incision on that patient was 12 to 18 inches long. And they were in a cast for 6 weeks, and the rehab was just an absolute monster. Wow. With the advent of arthroscopic surgery, we could do it with, at most, a 2 or 3 inch incision and a few portals, no cast, move them right away, and that certainly decreased the incidence of scar tissue. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, it doesn't always decrease the incidence of arthritis. Wow. Whenever you insult a joint with a trauma, be it a car accident trauma or the trauma of surgery, arthritis invariably occurs after that insult. It happens faster in some people than others. That's probably partly genetic. We'll figure that out in another decade or so. But arthritis, once it sets in, is relentless, and that's what ultimately requires many of those patients to need a knee replacement or a hip replacement later on in life. But by being able to do that, you get them back to a quality of life that we weren't able to do before.
Sure.
The days of a 60-year-old saying, I can't do anything because my knees are beat up from college football are over. We can give him a new knee and he can still get out there and play pickleball.
I love it. Well, on that note, Dr. Alan Beyer, thank you so much for being here with us. What an enjoyable conversation.
Thank you, been a pleasure. Hope to see you again soon.
Yes. You're watching This Day on Village TV. We'll be back after these messages.
Do you or your loved ones want to continue living at home safely, but are starting to see signs of Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, maybe it's recent strokes or falls? Having a caregiver at home can be the best way to keep you in home safely. Home Helpers has been providing caregivers for over 25 years. Call us today or join us at Laguna Cafe for free pie and coffee, and we'll answer your questions about caregiving. It's the first Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m., and space goes quickly, so RSVP now.
Hello and welcome to this Friday's episode of Sports Corner. We're in the heat of college basketball, and March Madness is all the sports world is talking about right now. I'm Cole Young, and I'll get right to it. Last Thursday, the official March Madness tournament began. To be honest, not a lot of madness has happened this March. Normally, a few unknown or very small schools upset a major program and make a deep run in the tournament. For the men, here's a look at the bracket so far to this point. Starting in the South, there were a few close calls and one upset as number 10 New Mexico upset number 7 Marquette. But their Cinderella story would stop there, as the Lobos would fall short to Michigan State in the next round. The top 3 seeds, Auburn, Michigan State, and Iowa State, all cruised through the first round, but Iowa State was upset by number 6 Ole Miss in the second round. Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and Michigan State represent the South region in the Sweet 16. In the East, Duke started out the tournament as a clear frontrunner as they had breezed past their opponents in the first 2 rounds. The biggest shock in this region was number 3 Wisconsin falling to number 6 BYU in the second round. But other than that, this region is pretty clear-cut, so there isn't much drama to report. Duke, Arizona, BYU, and Alabama made their way to the Sweet 16. Heading out west, this region had the most excitement. Top-seeded Florida began this tournament as a heavy favorite to be crowned national champions. They did cruise in the first round, but faced a close call in round 2 as number 8 UConn almost pulled off the upset. The talk of this region was number 12 Colorado State as they upset Memphis in the first round, but lost in absolutely heartbreaking fashion in round 2. The 4th-seeded Maryland Terrapins stunned Colorado State on a buzzer-beating floater from Derek Queen on Sunday to secure a 72-71 thriller and advance to the Sweet 16. Number 11 Drake turned some heads as they upset number 6 Missouri, but ultimately would be eliminated in the second round by number 3 Texas Tech. And lastly, the lowest remaining seed heading into yesterday was number 10 Arkansas. Led by legendary coach John Calipari, the Razorbacks upset Blue Blood Kansas and then number 2 ranked St. John's to punch their ticket into the Sweet 16 for a matchup with Texas Tech. So, as mentioned, Florida, Maryland, Texas Tech, and Arkansas represent the West in the Sweet 16. Lastly, in the Midwest, number 12 McNeese State was the talk of the town as they upset number 5 Clemson in the first round. They battled with Purdue in round 2, only to fall just short of a victory. Other than that, this region saw the top 4 seeds take the top 4 spots, so it wasn't all that exciting. Houston, Purdue, Kentucky, and Tennessee made it to the Sweet 16 for the Midwest. Yesterday, the first 4 Sweet 16 games tipped off for the East and West regions. Alabama, Duke, Florida, Texas Tech have all won their Sweet 16 matchups and have punched their tickets to the Elite 8, which begins tomorrow. The Midwest and South regions will play their games today at 4, 4:30, 6:30, and 7 p.m. tonight. For the women's bracket, it's pretty much of the same. In the first round, only 4 teams, Oregon, Indiana, Mississippi State, and South Dakota State, entered the first games as underdogs and upset their opponents in the first round. That means 60 out of 64 favorites won the first round games. In the next round, it got a little bit more interesting as 3 number 5 seeds eliminated the 4 seeds. So that means the lowest ranking teams entering the Sweet 16 are all number 5 seeds, which isn't all that low of a ranking. All this means is that the good teams are very good this year. One of the top favorites to win the tournament this year was number 1 USC. The Trojans dominated round 1, pulling out a whopping 71-25 win in round 1. Strangely enough, the 46-point margin of victory was only the third largest in round 1, as Notre Dame won by 52 points and number 2 UConn beat number 15 Arkansas State 103-34. Anyway, back to USC. They again rolled through the second round, beating Mississippi State 96-59. However, USC lost their star player early in the game as Juju Watkins went down with a season-ending knee injury 5 minutes into Monday night's game. USC showed how deep their bench is after still pulling out the victory, but it'll be a test for them going forward without Watkins. The first 4 Sweet 16 games will be played today, with the remaining games this round finishing up tomorrow. Don't miss out on either the men's or women's games this weekend, as there are only a few games left in both brackets before we reach the national championship stage. Another collegiate sport has adopted their own version of March Madness. The 2025 NCAA men's hockey tournament is set with the 16-team bracket in place, and all roads are leading to what they are calling the Frozen Four in St. Louis. The winners of the 6 conference tournaments won automatic NCAA berths, while the top 10 at-large teams rounded out the rest of the field. Boston College, the overall number 1 seed, Big Ten champion Michigan State, Hockey East champ Maine, and NCHC champion Western Michigan all earned the top spots. Denver, last year's national champion, will defend its title as the number 3 seed, while UConn and Bentley are in the NCAA tournament for the first time. The first 4 games began yesterday, with the next 4 continuing today. The next rounds will be tomorrow and Sunday, all leading up to the national championship on April 12th. While these collegiate seasons are coming to an end, one of the major 4 sports is just beginning. This week is finally MLB opening day. Yesterday, 28 of 30 MLB teams played in 14 opening day games, with the Milwaukee Brewers and New York Yankees kicking off the season. The Angels began their season with a road game with the White Sox, the Padres opened their season at home hosting the Atlanta Braves, and although the Dodgers technically began their season last week with a 2-game stretch in Japan, their first games of the season in the continental United States began with a home series against the Detroit Tigers. The Angels immediately head to St. Louis following their stint in Chicago, so their first home game in Anaheim won't be until next Friday when they host the Cleveland Guardians. Baseball season is officially here, so don't miss out on any games and try to head to see some in person if you can. Last week, I talked about the drama surrounding the first Formula One race of the season. Somehow, the second race was even more dramatic. Oscar Piastri cruised to victory at the Chinese Grand Prix last Saturday as McLaren completed a dominant 1-2 performance. Piastri was relatively unchallenged all race as he took his first win of the season. His McLaren teammate, Lando Norris, was in close pursuit for the majority of the distance, earning him the second place spot on the podium. George Russell finished on the podium for the second consecutive week for Mercedes in third place, while Max Verstappen would finish fourth. All that went smoothly, but the drama came after the race. Charles Leclerc and Pierre Gasly were both disqualified from the Chinese Grand Prix after their respective Ferrari and Alpine cars were found to be underweight in a post-race check. Leclerc finished the race in 5th position while Gasly crossed the line at 11th. However, there was another twist for Leclerc's Ferrari teammate Lewis Hamilton, who was also disqualified after the car was deemed to have a part under the required size. So, after a full race, Ferrari had both cars disqualified and gained 0 points. Like I said, this season is already off to a wild start, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out down the road. The next Formula One race will be next weekend in Japan. To close the show, a major NFL story broke just Tuesday afternoon. The New York Giants reached an agreement with Super Bowl winning quarterback Russell Wilson on a 1-year deal worth up to $21 million, including $10.5 million guaranteed. To bring you up to speed, Wilson had an incredibly successful career with the Seattle Seahawks, where he led the team to 2 Super Bowls and 1 Super Bowl win, as well as breaking all kinds of Seahawks records. After a blockbuster trade in 2022, Wilson spent 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos, who signed him to a 5-year, $242.6 million deal after acquiring him in a massive trade with the Seahawks. But the Broncos went just 11-19 during Wilson's tenure and didn't make the playoffs, and he was released by the team last March. Wilson then signed a 1-year contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers last offseason. After early success, the Steelers ended the 2024 season on a 5-game losing streak. Wilson threw only 6 touchdown passes, turned the ball over 4 times, and took 18 sacks in that stretch. He also finished the season with a 6-5 record as the starter, with just 16 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. He was sacked a staggering 33 times throughout the season. Safe to say, it appears Wilson has passed the prime of his career, but with a ton of young talent in New York, he could find a career rejuvenation. This move also is the final domino to fall in the Aaron Rodgers saga, so now the world waits to see where he will sign once the Giants are off the table. Only time will tell. The NHL and NBA playoffs are just on the horizon, baseball is officially back, and the men's and women's college basketball national championships are quickly arriving. All this to say, it's a great time in sports. As always, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Sports Corner. Come right back next week for more news, updates, and highlights. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.
Fires are contained and the rains have arrived. Now is the perfect time to prepare before the next major emergency. Do you have your go bag ready? A go bag is an emergency kit packed with essential items in the event of a quick evacuation. It should be easily accessible and light enough to carry. Some essentials belong in every go bag, like medications, food, water, first aid kits, and more. Check and refresh your go bag regularly. Be prepared and stay safe.
All right, folks, it's time to check in on those movies, and we've got some good ones for you as well. On Friday, today, we're going to have The Concert, made back in 2009. It stars Melanie Lawrence, and it's brought to us by City of Hope. It is foreign language film. It's French, so we're going to have subtitles both at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. when we run that one. 30 years ago, Bolshoi Orchestra conductor Andrei Filippov was fired for hiring Jewish musicians. Now, a lowly janitor, an opportunity arises to gather his old musicians and go on and pose as the official Bolshoi Orchestra in Paris. So kind of a fun comeuppance 30 years later on that one. Make sure you get to see that one again, both in subtitles, both at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Then on Saturday, we have Trading Places, a classic comedy. This is a real fun one from back in the 80s. It stars Dan Aykroyd, Eddie Murphy, and Jamie Lee Curtis. It's brought to us by Hoag Orthopedic Institute, and this is going to be on 2 p.m. with the subtitles and 6 p.m. without the subtitles. It's a snobbish investor and a wily street con artist find their positions reversed as part of a bet by two callous millionaires. And it's a really great comedy. There's a really, really funny scene that I know Mark really loves when there's Dan Aykroyd's dressed as Santa and stuffing food and tied his suit. So make sure you see that one. A lot of great lines in there, a lot of fun on that comedy on Saturday, Trading Places. All right, let's take a quick check of our weather. And we've got pretty much the same kind of forecast. If you like today, you're going to love the rest of the week and into weekend and into next week. We got basically mid-60s for us, 50s overnights, and mostly cloudy to partly cloudy skies in the forecast. So that is going to be it for that. And that's going to do it for this edition of This Day. Tomorrow on the program, Memorial Care's going to be in here talking about a Thrive event they have coming up next week. And then later in the program, McCarran Company, going to be Don and Brando coming in talking about patios and kitchens. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of This Day. I'm Michael Taylor. For all of us here at Village Television, we hope you make this day a great one.